Alright, so this is the 2016 Cadillac CTS-V with 640 horsepower and 630 pound-feet of torque. The interior is really cool. It's very, very clean in here. Some people will say, and I will agree, that this system here is not quite up to snuff. Let's figure out what it's like on the road. This Cadillac actually has a few options on it. It has the panoramic sunroof. It has PDR, which is basically a camera system that records telemetry. It has the carbon fiber splitter and diffuser and air vents on the hood and a bunch of stuff that you really, really want on this car. They're all control surfaces in carbon fiber, and they are quintessential to the CTS-V look. I think you can't have a CTS-V without the carbon fiber package. I know what you're thinking though. $100,000 sounds like a lot of money for a car that's essentially a competitor to an S6 or an M5 or maybe even the Charger Hellcat. But what you're really getting for $100,000 is the power from a supercharged V8. And it all goes to the rear wheels through an 8-speed automatic transmission. And it's not a dual clutch, it's not the ZF8, it's a hydromatic transmission developed by GM, and it works very well with this car. You're not going to get everything in the Cadillac that you'd expect from a German competitor, but you do get some very cool track modes that I'll show you. In addition to all the tech and gizmos, such as a full display on the center console that's touchscreen, and the Q system, which I'm not a fan of, and the instrument cluster, you also get heads up. But what you don't get in this car at $100,000 is radar cruise, but you do get auto collision braking. Overall though, I did use cruise only once, and that was basically to keep me doing the speed limit. This car is very tempting and very easy to go way over if you're not careful, or even if you are salivating for a little bit of exhaust noise. On the drive I had from San Antonio to Austin with cruise control, I averaged mid-19s in the miles per gallon department. And for 640 horsepower, that's pretty respectable. For a car that's so instantaneous, for a car that's very quick off the line, very eager to spin its tires through fifth gear basically, what you really need to understand is my confusion with this vehicle. Firstly, the cup holders have this motorized panel, and in my mind, in a car that can go 0 to 60 in under 4 seconds, why would you motorize cup holders? It seems to me like you're compensating for something. Also, the same thing with this flimsy panel on the Q system. I have to touch this receptor to open a panel via a motor and wait for it to fully open and wait for it to fully close. And in a car this quick, that's driving me crazy. Another thing that's driving me up the wall is no knob to control the volume. The whole interface here is lacking information. I can't tell you right now what my air conditioning is set at. I don't know the temperature. I don't know the fan speed. And I can hardly see if recirc is on or if auto is on. And this system in general needs to be replaced. It's gotta go, Cadillac. Say what you want about the tenets of button pushing, at least it's an ethos. I'm not sure a quick car needs to be slowed down by an interface. I want to see that I am in control here. And that's fine for a passenger, but if you're a driver and you're scrolling and pushing and scrolling and pushing in a car this quick, you got problems. So my advice here is ignore Q, ignore the touchscreen, and pay attention to what you're doing, which is driving. overall, my first impression with this car on the track was that it was an S6 killer. This is the best you can get from Cadillac, and this is the best they can give you, to a point. For instance, the seats are very comfortable. The Recaro seats have a lot of adjustment capabilities. There's a knob on the side. The problem is that it's hard for me to get my hand in here and make a seat adjustment because the bolsters are sticking out so far that I can't get my hand between the door and the bolster to touch the seat controls. And I've had that in a few sports cars. If you are going to use this on the track, definitely get the Recaro seats. While these seats are comfortable and they have a lot of adjustment capabilities for the bolsters on the backs and the bottom, you have a fixed headrest position and the fabric itself feels like a faux suede. The problem here is I only have heated seats. I don't have ventilated seats. I will say that this is the best looking Cadillac, the most attention grabbing Cadillac, the best sounding Cadillac, and the best performing Cadillac, hands down. My favorite feature though is this mode button. So as serious as this car is, it actually is fun to drive. And it all comes down to the steering and the chassis management. And Cadillac put a lot of work into this. In fact, if you go into track mode, you actually get a secret menu. And in that secret menu, you actually get 5 modes. Those 5 modes are part of Cadillac's performance traction management. So you're getting a big combination of items that are going to work together to give you the best results possible. It also means that you can pick up your parents from the airport and then do donuts on the way to work. All in the same car. Now, part of the hidden menu with the track mode setting is that it's actually been cooked up by their racing team. And to give you more information, I'm going to read here a nice little statement from a guy named, from a guy at Cadillac. And let's just say this. The secret menu is a segment-exclusive racing-derived performance traction management system. It originated from the championship-winning Cadillac racing program with 12 levels of PTM to lengthen the life of a tire while being fast in and out of corners. Tony Roma, who's not one of the restaurant guys, he's now a V-Series chief engineer. And he was one of the first to connect the dots on how beneficial a PTM system would be in a street car. So Cadillac in the CTS-V has 5 levels in the street car where it can be accessed through a driver mode. The settings are incremental to match a driver's skill level. All engineers at Cadillac are faster in PTM 5 race mode than they are with everything turned off. First thing you'll see is the instrument cluster and a blank area within this gauge. Down here you'll see mode. So I'm going to toggle mode until I get into track mode. Once I'm in track mode, I wait a few seconds. It will enable and you'll see the track flash. When that happens, you press off twice. And now you get into a secret menu where you can change into different types of performance traction. What all those things do is play into how this car handles and how it's going to perform, especially in and out of corners. Obviously, this is to save the tires. So we're going to put this one into 5 race mode, 4 sport 2, and 3 sport 1. There's actually a level for dry traction and wet traction. You can actually do this while driving. Braking as well seems very supportive in this car. The modulation, the feedback is right on. You can go through different modes, select different options that are tuned and tailored to the vehicle to do exactly what it says. Touring, I'll have a little bit of that. It immediately softens the suspension, makes it not so much easier to drive, but much more comfortable, especially if you have passengers. Sport mode, that's my favorite mode. That stiffens up the suspension and ensures that you're constantly in the right gear when you want to do some passing. There's also track mode, which literally is for the track. I do not advise that on busy roads. And there's also snow and ice, which I actually tried out in the rain the other day. It's a stout handler. I like how the heads-up display can be adjusted as far as what kind of information you want. For this point, I have speed, speed with speed limit, speed with direction, speed with tachometer. Those are all very nice functions to have. I like to keep it on speed and speed limit. And as far as the map, GM has a pretty good navigation system. It's pretty comparable to what you would get from an Audi, with the exception of Google Earth and the ability to search for restaurants or points of interest or destinations with a voice command. I still get traffic, I get auto zoom, I get every feature I like to have in my Audi. I like what I see here in the Cadillac. And the touchscreen pinch and zoom capability, the touchscreen drag or pan capability, those are top notch. I just wish they would update the entire interface for volume and tuning or seeking or track changing and the air conditioning. So even with a stability management program and algorithmic shifting and magnetic ride control and one of the best weighted steering mechanisms I've ever come across in a performance sedan, what you end up with in this Cadillac CTS-V is a machine that's very capable of daily driving and very capable of high performance track driving. This is actually smaller than an S6, it's actually smaller than a GSF, it's actually smaller than an M5, but it beats them all in the performance department. And what's very fun about this car, beyond the horsepower and the exhaust note, is that everyone looks at you. People get out of your way in this car. It has a look that is menacing, and that's why I would highly recommend the carbon fiber kit. It's only about $6,000. In fact, that's the only option I recommend on this vehicle. This car actually has other options. Security package, Recaro seats, luxury package, folding rear seats, 19-inch wheels, which are the largest wheels you can get, and this really stupid glass sunroof, which is incredibly hot on a summer day. So in whole, the package you can get with this vehicle is performance, 4 doors, track worthy, and you can't go wrong with that. Now, this is my first Cadillac, and I never really thought of a Cadillac as a performance vehicle. I always knew that GM made Cadillac their top-of-the-line segment, but at this point, the performance aspect changes how I personally feel about Cadillac. I always thought that their previous incarnations of the CTS-V were mainly just vehicles with insane engines and lousy badges. But driving this and knowing it feels better than an S6 and knowing that it sounds better than an M5, I think what you're going to get in a CTS-V is a better overall package, a better daily package, and it definitely pays off. I've been driving it all week, and I've been averaging 15.1 miles per gallon, clearly using this engine, because let's face it, if you have a car like this for a week, you're not going to pussyfoot around. Hey. So beyond the lousiness of the rear folding seats, which is totally an option that you don't need, and the panoramic glass sunroof, I would say that the Cadillac does not let you down. I think the best CTS-V you can get is just a bone stock CTS-V with the carbon fiber attachments. And those attachments do look great on this vehicle. They look like control surfaces from an airplane. Actually, they look like control surfaces from a fighter jet. Even though I'm going to miss it, I don't think my neighbors will. It's kind of loud in the morning when I start it up. I think it's worth it. The critical aspects of the gear change, the steering, and the magnetic transmission. Fuck. The magnetic transmission. The steering feedback is amazing. And the suspension rides perfectly through corners. It's absolutely flat. And if I had a cameraman, I'd stick him outside in the hot Texas sun and show that to you. The problem is I pay him in beers.